Hello, I'm going to show you today two bows from Bear Archery. The Bear Attack comes in two different models. We have the Realtree and the Shadow bow. I'm going to set them both up today, shoot them, give you a good general feedback on what I think of it and some detail about the specifications. This is the Shadow finish, which is quite a nice looking bow. It's got a textured finish on it. It's certainly not a smooth finish. It's not anodised. Looks more like a powder coated finish on there. Definitely gives the impression of quite a tough, rugged, hard wearing finish. But if you're expecting a smooth gloss finish, this is certainly not it. Don't want any reflection on that bow. Matte. Looks very nice. The cams, very well machined, all beveled. Looks like a dark grey anodised finish on there. No sharp edges at all. You can tell they've got some detail in the beveling on the inside of the cutaways here. We've got a rubberised grip, not plastic like you get on some bows out there. Gives a better grip. The Bear logo on there looks pretty cool as well. So that's a very nice looking bow. Pretty much the same with the Realtree version. Pockets are all Realtree. Again, not a super smooth finish, certainly not as coarse as the Shadow, but somewhere in between. Not a smooth finish, not a harsh finish. Definitely a texture on there. You'll be able to feel the texture. Exactly the same cams, but these look olive green, matches the colour tones of the bow very well. Like the little detail of even the axles. The axles are blacked out as well, so there's absolutely nothing on that bow that could reflect or shine at all. So all in all, two very tidy, nicely finished bows. This is the Bear E cam. It's a single cam design bow, 5 inches of draw length adjustment. 25 to 30 inches is the range, but one thing that's nice about this is that sometimes on bows with a large draw length adjustment, when you set them in the shorter settings, they don't feel so good and they don't shoot so good. I set this at 25 inches earlier and it feels very nice. You've still got the valley there, the let-off's consistent. Sometimes you really feel like the cam's pulling you forward on other types of cams set really short. So it's got a good usable range of 5 inches, which is, makes a nice change. The draw length modules can be removed with these screws, and you don't need a bow press. The module comes off, fit in the correct corresponding module for your draw length, move the stop to match, and away you go. I measured the let-off on this cam and it's advertised 80% let-off, but that depends how you measure it. It is possible to get 80% let-off if you find the lightest possible holding weight, basically when you start to creep forward a bit. But the usable let-off, when you're actually drawing and shooting the bow, worked out is more like 72–73% let-off, which is plenty. You can see the idler there, I mentioned that earlier, how nicely machined and radiused it is. Nice lightweight, simple idler on the top. Mentioned a little bit about the grip earlier. It's a narrow grip, not one of those large wooden grips that some people prefer. I'm definitely a big fan of narrow grips ever since we've been making bows. Well, I'd say the more modern bows over the last 10 years or so, we've always made narrow grips. So although on first inspection, if you're used to shooting a wooden grip, it might not be as ergonomically natural as you might be used to, but if you want a bow to shoot more accurately with better consistency, this is a very nice example of a narrow grip. A little flat on the back, decent radius on the corners, beveling up to the top. What's nice to see is that your knuckle doesn't rub hard against the aluminium of the bow, so comfortable grip, my style of grip, that's good. Quite a distinctive feature about the Bear bows is these dual string suppressors. I think Bear are the only ones that have the double system. I think they patented it, because there is thought when you just have a single string suppressor on the bottom, it's in the bottom quarter of the string. When that string comes crashing to a stop on the stopper, the top 3/4 of the string can continue to move forward and potentially distort the knocking point as it follows through on its natural path. So it's quite logical to have a double string suppressor, so you know that the impact is the same top and bottom, and you know that the knocking point is going to travel forward in a straight line as you'd expect. What else do we have? We've got a carbon cable guard, slider. It looks like Teflon, but that's not a Teflon slider, that's a moulded plastic slider. It's a little bit sticky on the slider, a little bit of lube on there, or even better would be to have a true Teflon slider on there just to make that super slick. So a little bit sticky on there, but you'll get that on all plastic cable slided bows, and nothing out of the ordinary, but you can see a little bit of sticky on that. Easily fixed. Pockets are nice and neat. Little lock screw there to make sure there's no movement in the pocket once it's been set. And when you change the poundage, you undo the screw, and the limb stays secure in the pocket through all the different angles as the pocket swivels with the adjustment that you make. It's nice to see that the machining fits all the way around. Neat job on the pockets there too. And probably the final thing, you might notice we've got a stainless steel stabilizer insert. It's to be expected on all top of the range bows. If you've just got an aluminium hole threaded straight into the aluminium, after a bit of time that thread starts to wear. So stainless steel is going to last for years. Just want to show you the Bear Quadlings, split limb style bow. Pretty extreme pre-bend on those. You can see they're beyond parallel even before we draw the bow back. And at full draw, I don't know whether this will show up on the camera. I'm going to do some shooting later, so you'll see how they react. Draw that back, and there is some preload in there. Imagine that limb being straight, and that's pretty amazing. Stores a lot of energy, very low vibration, virtually zero recoil. If you like zero recoil, this is one for you as well. If there is a drawback with this style of limb, it's that they're quite difficult to press in a bow press. You do need a specific bow press for it. This style of limb is becoming much more popular now, so bow presses will adapt. This is a new style of limb. It's been around a short while, but on the scale of things, new development in limbs, so bow presses haven't quite caught up yet. So that's the only negative, is that difficult to press. If you need to disassemble that bow at home, you're going to have difficulty doing it. However, can't see any reason you would need to disassemble it. Got a good reputation of reliable limbs. Right, the specifications of this bow. We've got 31 inches axle to axle length, 7-inch brace side, IBO speed 334 to 340, so this is a very fast bow. What's nice about this though is it's not a very aggressive type bow. There are some speed bows out there that have a really difficult draw cycle with them. This is noticeably a smooth draw cycle, and the 7-inch brace sight makes it nice and forgiving as well. What I'm going to do, you'll have already seen lots of photos maybe of the attack bow in camouflage, all rigged up with the hunting gear on it, and this is really where this bow was developed. It's a hunting bow, but this style of bow, this particular one, can cross over quite nicely to certainly 3D shooting and field archery. I'm going to set one of these up to see how it shoots as a target archery bow. And there are some features about this that do make this a completely viable target bow. One of those I mentioned earlier was the grip. It's got a really nice narrow grip. The balance of the bow in particular is exceptionally good. It's got a neutral balance to it. Now, a dedicated target bow is likely to have more of a rear balance to it. If you have a neutral to rear balanced target bow, when you fit a sight on and then the longer stabilizers, it's going to drop down nicely and balance well. Some of the other short bows like this are much more front heavy. So if you have a bow that feels very front heavy before you even put any sights or stabilizers on it, you're going to have a hard time getting that set up to aim with a long stabilizer for target shooting. You tend to end up having to put extra rear weights on, V-bars on them. This is not going to be necessary to the extreme with this one. So I'm going to set one of these up for target, show you how I do it to get the best possible precision out of this bow, and we'll see how it performs. I'm sure if you've been looking on the internet, you've already seen lots of pictures, good reviews about this bow as a hunting bow. Typical setup with a whisker biscuit rest. I'm a big fan of the whisker biscuit rest. Little short rod, pin sight. Don't want to tread over old ground with this. Look at it yourself. You'll see this has got fantastic reviews as a hunting bow. However, I want to see how this bow shoots as a target bow, because we can't bow hunt in the UK, it's against the law. We do a lot of field archery and target archery, and I've got a shadow version set up. I've got a Apollo launcher on here, which is a spring steel type of arrow rest. It suits the X10 arrow particularly well. It's a good 70-meter arrow, nice sensitive blade on there. Got the Shibuya CPX sight with a 10-zone scope on there, 0.75 diopter. Hope you can see the lens there okay. This has got a ring on it. Sometimes I like to use a dot, personal preference on that. But this is where what I was talking about, bow balance to aid aiming, really starts to show. Now we've got this long full-size sight on the bow. If you already had a front heavy bow, it's going to feel pretty bad on the front, but this is not. This is still quite well balanced with that long sight on. Got a 30-inch triad stabilizer. Get that fitted on there. And this is what transforms it into a nice shooting, nice feeling, aiming bow. The balance of the bow is now distinctively forward, not excessively so. You do want direction forward and down from the target after you've shot it. I put a little short triad stabilizer on the side. So not really to act as a rear weight, although there is some function of that happening on the bow. This is more to add a little bit of side balance to it. Because if we've got a large sight on the right hand side, arrow rest on the right hand side, even the bow riser is cut away on the right hand side, it makes sense to put a little bit of weight on the left hand side. I know some of you guys are interested in how fast these bows are. It's not my first concern when I'm setting a bow for accuracy, but we'll certainly do some speed testing later for you and we'll see how that performs. I'm going to do a little bit of paper tuning now and see how we go. Okay, I'm going to do a little quick paper tune here. I've been having a bit of a play already, and I've noticed my X10s, my 450 X10s, are coming out a bit weak. We're showing a bit of a tear through the paper, which I think is related to the arrow flexing as it goes through the paper. So I've dropped the poundage down from 60 pounds down to 56. I'm going to shoot my 450 through. It goes through quite nice. Let's just see how it looks. Not bad. I've got a slight left tear, not much at all. When I shoot the 380, it goes through clean as a whistle, very nice. So I think on arrow selection, you certainly need to choose the hard cam selection on any Eastern arrow chart, because I was shooting my Excalibur with a 450, and this would need a stiffer arrow. But it's a much faster bow, so it's not surprising. There we go, let me zoom in there for you. Try and zoom in on that. Well, let's see. There we go, not bad. Left hand one is the 380 and the right hand one is the 450, so I think I need a shaft somewhere in the middle. I'm not going to get too much into the detail on this. I just want to get outside and shoot the bow and give you a report on how it feels, but first impressions are super quiet, no vibration, and a very impressive little bow.